I'm here with you all today by this beautiful flowing creek to talk about feminism and how the patriarchy is still controlling our bodies, all of our bodies, all genders, all people, all races, all of us. So, to start off, I'm just going to give a really brief, diluted overview of the history of feminism and then dive into where we are now in terms of feminism and talk about my lived experience in this body as a person with a womb. So the first wave of feminism, as they call it, in 1848 was essentially about, oh, hey, women are people too. Cool, women are people, great, and let's get the right to vote in 1920, and that's when it ended. The first wave with the right to vote, cool, women are people, great. Then the second wave was about having the right to work outside of the home and not just be a homemaker and have more privileges in society. And let's be very clear, with these first two waves, they were really focused on white women specifically. And in the second wave, especially with the concept of getting out of the home to do work in other professions, that was very much led by white women because a lot of women of color were already working outside of the home out of necessity. So that is the second wave. And also allowing women to get credit cards under their own name, have more control and autonomy over their money, etc. And beginning to address systemic sexism, just beginning to, and raising consciousness a bit. And also having reproductive freedom, more contraception, and rights to have abortions. It's important to note, though, that a lot of people of color experienced forced sterilizations, which is a forcing someone to be sterile and not allowing them to have babies if they wanted to, and that was not something that was addressed in the second movement. The personal is political. That's kind of what this whole thing was about. Rosie the Riveter, World War II, was part of this movement as well, just like I can do anything a man can do. The third wave in 1991 was a lot about sexual harassment in the workplace, political action, getting women into office. And there was a little bit of intersectionality with Kimberly Crenshaw's work around intersectionality and like bringing people of color a little bit more into the picture, but this didn't really fully begin to happen until the fourth wave of feminism, as they call it, which began in 2012 and is still going on. And this wave has been characterized by a lot of activism on social media, as social media has become more prominent and really intending to include stories of POC and elevate their voices, also viewing gender as more fluid, less binary and rigid. And also this concept of the rise of the divine feminine. So that's where we are right now in the feminist history in the fourth wave. And I want to talk about this concept of so much of what feminism has been about. I can do anything a man can do. And just like this, because we live in this patriarchy that's super fucking linear and super like, you need to be operating at all times on this level, intellectual, and you can't feel your emotions, and you just need to be able to do all these things and like go, and never stop, never rest, never breathe. Whew, and it is exhausting. No one can function that way. And in the history of feminism, the concept of I can do anything a man can do has been important because it's allowed the society and interpersonal relationships to see women as equal to men and like this very basic equality, like we're all equal and we all deserve rights, we all deserve happiness and love and joy. So this concept has been very important. And it's also very crucial to acknowledge how this concept of I can do anything a man can do dilutes the experience of individuals who have wombs and who have a very different hormonal flow than people who don't. So that's what this video is really about. And yeah, it's taken 5 minutes to get there, addressing the little bit of the history of feminism. But yeah, and this, like, it hits so deeply to my heart and to my body. And so much of how I lived my life in the past was go and wearing out my adrenals, and not only not honoring my menstrual cycle, not even like really realizing it was a thing. Like, yeah, I would bleed, and cool, I'd bleed, but I had no idea that the way I would feel during my cycle and throughout the month has a beautiful pattern and a flow, and that this pattern is not made up. It's in fact very tangible and in the body and scientific, in that our hormones are changing when estrogen is produced, and progesterone and luteinizing hormone, and there are all these things happening in our body that are going to affect our feelings and our energy levels and our capacity to create and interact with the world around us. And we live in a world that is so linear. It doesn't make space for the cyclical and circular nature of a woman's body or a person with a womb's body. So that is essentially how patriarchy is still controlling our relationship with our bodies. Yeah, and I feel as though we are still encouraged to act as though we do not have periods, to act as though we are not bleeding women. Whether it's not talking about it, for sure. Don't talk about your blood. Ew, that's disgusting. Don't talk about your blood. That's so gross. Ugh. So that's one way. Just don't talk about it. It's nasty. And also in the way of just not being culturally acceptable to ask for some time to rest before, during, or after your cycle, whenever you need that. It's not socially acceptable. It's like you have to say you're sick or something. And yeah, it's not socially acceptable to be like, I love my body so much, I love my period so much that I'm gonna take out 3 full days to be dedicated to this beautiful moon time. Thank you for allowing me the space that I deserve. That's not socially acceptable, and that's not okay. This needs to change. So that's why I'm speaking about it and putting it out there and just drawing some attention to it, because it's still so in the mainstream to just talk about how much we hate our periods. And I recently saw an ad that comes up a lot about some type of like menstrual cup that's disposable, and the first thing that the woman says is, I love sex, but I hate my period. And I just like keep seeing that ad come up, and it is just such a common rhetoric to hate our periods. And I want to name that if anyone feels like they hate their period, it's okay to feel like that. It's so okay to feel like that. And I also want to honor the diverse experiences of individuals on their cycles, and how I know deep pain, physical cramps, and just the lethargy and the nausea and the deep dark emotions. Like, it is hard, it's painful, it can be. And so I want to honor that and name that, and say that there's nothing wrong with the statement, I hate my period, and to also encourage us to look into the cultural context that has set us up to say that, has set us up to say we hate our periods, that has set us up to feel as though we can't do what our bodies want to do during that time, which is rest, and tune in and breathe and be and play and whatever. Literally just to be without the restriction and without the responsibility. So yeah, and it's very challenging. It can be to create that space that is necessary during our moon time, our sacred bleeding time. Yeah, so yeah, patriarchy controlling our bodies, and we're also not given enough options when it comes to birth control. And so this is why I wanted to kind of tie in the feminism history at the beginning, and how like part of the second wave was about the pill being developed and just more contraception, and that is super incredible. And this concept of like, yeah, I can have the autonomy of my body, and I can choose to have children or not. And I think there's so much beauty in that. And also, I didn't know that there were other options. I was told to fear my fertility, and I thought growing up that I could get pregnant at any moment if there was sperm anywhere near my vagina. Like, I'm just fertile all the time and I could just get pregnant whenever. So, but that's simply not true. And that's what I was taught, and what many of us were taught in school, is that we should fear our fertility. We should fear it because it's scary and you don't want to get pregnant. And I didn't know what ovulation was until a few years ago. Ovulation is when the egg is released, and only there's a small window when you can actually fertilize that egg and get pregnant. And so I have a different video where I talk about fertility awareness method, which talks about the very specific way you can chart your cycle and know when you ovulate and know how your cervical mucus looks, also known as discharge, etc. But yeah, and that is an incredibly empowering form of birth control / cycle wisdom to tap into. And it will one day soon be taught in our public education system. I have faith. So yeah. So yes, all of that. And also with, I feel like another thing about patriarchy is denying empirical evidence of the body. I consider myself a witch, and one main facet of being a witch is trusting empirical evidence. I trust how I feel in my body. I trust my body's wisdom. I don't need someone to tell me what I'm feeling, because I feel it in my body. I know my body. So that is this encouraging to like outsource our feelings and to look to very specific calculated ways of science and things that are just like outside of the physical body. I think that our physical bodies can interact very well with all of these like nuanced prescriptive ways of being and saying that things are, but empirical evidence needs to come first, in my opinion. So yes, and something that takes us away from empirical evidence is numbing of our body, which this society encourages us to do. We live in a culture of consumption. It's capitalism. We're just consuming all the time, and there are advertisements saying buy this and buy that and eat this food, and then the food is gonna numb this emotion and that emotion, and then do the drug and drink the alcohol, and then have the sex, and then do this and do that and take, and then we're just like, whoa, like we're so clogged that our systems can't feel anymore. And so when our systems aren't feeling deeply, and when they're not in tune, then it means that our energy and life force isn't going to be flowing as fully. And yeah. So thank you for watching this little video about the patriarchy and how our bodies are still being controlled, and our minds. And I'm making this video to simply continue to bring awareness to it, and to bring awareness to that specific concept of the I can do everything a man can do concept. And I really see this come up a lot with like people enjoying not having a period, which again, it's every person's individual choice to use whatever method of birth control they want, and to have their enjoyment around not having a period or whatever. That's everyone's choice. And we are not given enough education around our bodies and our cycles and the deep joy and beauty of that it is to bleed. And I believe that we need to honor our blood and need to honor the wisdom that the cycle brings, because it is life. There is no being on this earth who is not birthed from a human with a womb. And so I believe the more we can remember that and tap into that wisdom that we hold, the more our earth and the world will benefit from the work. Because there's no one who benefits from this system of patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy, environmental degradation. No one. We're all learning. We're all coming home to the body. We're all breathing and being, and we're in this together. And so the wisdom that I am continuing to share with myself is to come home to the body and to listen to her. Thank you for watching and listening, and may we walk this path together in our bodies today.